Welcome to Truth Telling with Elizabeth D'Alto, the podcast dedicated to focusing on the truth that is always evolving within us and around us, where we explore the potentiality of truth as a highly esteemed value at a time in history when most people have more on their plates than any one human should. If you're new to me, full expression is my jam. Some words people have used to describe me range from speaker, trainer, coach, healer, writer, spiritual advisor, teacher, podcaster, and someone even called me their soul Sherpa once. I'm less concerned with titles or labels and more interested in results, change, and creating a world we want to, can, and are proud to live in. A kinder, gentler, more curious, collaborative, reverent world where people respect each other's backgrounds, experiences, and truths. They trust in themselves, in life, and recognize that we need each other. And they know how to cultivate healthy relationships to true power, not the very unhealthy kind of power our current culture is predicated upon. Speaking of our culture, there's a lot of noise and ignorance in our current culture, and this show aims to cut through that by exploring the truths of a diverse range of incredible voices. From authors, artists, creatives, and educators to activists, speakers, and those in various scientific and esoteric fields, our guests hail from cultures and countries all over the world. We post a new interview every Monday, and if you want to keep up with the show notes and quotes from our guests, you can follow me on Instagram at Elizabeth D'Alto. You can expect a wide range of topics when you tune into this show. Everything from health, communication, money, success, parenting, desire, sex, love, and spirituality, to making pivots and transitions in life, and topics related to psychology, storytelling, gender and race issues, emotional intelligence, activism, advocacy, and much more. A few disclaimers. No episode of the show is meant for everyone, and every episode is meant for whoever needs it on the right day at the right time. Not all guest views will reflect my own, and that's intentional. We don't learn, grow, heal, or improve by staying in our comfortable bubbles with all of our people who look, think, or live exactly how we do. If you love what you hear and find it useful and inspiring, the best way to show your appreciation is to share the episode, subscribe to the show, and leave us a rating and review wherever you listen in from. Thank you so much for being here with me. Here we go. Hello. This is episode number 285 of Truth Telling with Elizabeth D'Alto. It is also episode number 5 into the Journey into the Wild Soul series that we are doing here at the end of 2018. This series is about reflecting on this year and perhaps years previous so that we can leave the past in the past as we transition into a new calendar year. As well, we're here to invite you to consider if how you've been going about your growth, healing, and transformation is really effective, or if maybe it's been more performative, obligatory, inefficient, ineffective, or even just a distraction. So this is about real deal empowerment. And to be clear, I'm not out here trying to empower you. I can't do that for you, but I am here to help you empower yourself. So that's what we're talking about during this 6-week series. And we're approaching it from different angles with the intention of helping you connect to the love and truth inside of you. So this is about taking you on an adventure of your inner world to help you have better outer world experiences in 2019 and beyond. This series also coincides with enrollment for my year-long Women's Circle Power 2019, which is a circle for expansion, for love, for good, and for healing. And there are currently, there's one really amazing bonus available when you enroll before December 22nd. So it is 12 guest mentor interviews, and I've selected 12 amazing women, many of whom are former podcast guests, some of whom are close personal friends, even my own healers that I work with, to help enhance what we explore throughout the course of our year together. So some of you probably remember Rachel Maddox. Zuyapa Jackson is a dear friend of mine. Lisa Lister is one of our guest mentors. Nisha Moodley, another close friend. Shivani Hawkins, Laren Alta, Susanna Frioni, Heather Lindemann, Barry Tesler, Shanda Catrice, Evian Whitney, and Raquel Palmies. All of these women have beautiful, amazing skill sets, areas of expertise, and deep practice and wisdom to offer. And I've specifically lined up the months that they are being interviewed with the topics that we explore in Power 2019. Again, to just deepen the experience and add some more layers to your healing, your growth, your transformation. So those interviews are going to be amazing. And if you join Power 2019 by Saturday, December 22nd, you get access to those. And if you don't, those go away. That is a limited availability bonus. And I did these disappearing and limited availability and surprise bonuses this year. I've had a couple throughout the course of the month just to make it fun. When you run a business, you have to do business things and sales and marketing. And for some people, that looks like using psychological triggers and manipulating people and creating this false scarcity and stuff like that. And it doesn't feel good and it doesn't feel fun. And as a wild soul woman myself, I wanted it to be fun. I wanted it to feel like an adventure throughout the course of the month with some twists and turns and some bonuses. And this one goes away and this one appears. It just has actually been really, really enjoyable. And it's been an opportunity to also help people make decisions as they were kicking the tires, feeling things out. So if you are someone who has been thinking about joining Power 2019, right here in real time this week, something that was a little impromptu, I didn't have the idea until last Thursday, is we're doing a 5-day embodiment challenge. So if you've been following along with this series, the 3rd episode in the series was about embodiment. And so this week, Monday through Friday, if you're listening in real time, it's Monday, I'm offering some embodiment practices throughout the week, and I'm guiding you through some experiences to see what adding embodiment practice into your life would be like and how it would benefit you. So we're exploring that publicly over on my Instagram, but privately over in the Journey into the Wild Soul pop-up Facebook group that goes with this series. So if you want to join that Facebook group, you can go to wildsoulmovement.com/popupfb. And if you want to get in on the embodiment challenge, you can go to wildsoulmovement.com/embody2018. So that's wildsoulmovement.com/embody2018. It's going to be super fun. And I've also made it efficient. I am through and through a Virgo, and I love my efficiency. So it really won't take you more than 8 to 10 minutes each day of the challenge and could have some enormous benefits. And you know what? I didn't even think about until just now as I'm saying this, the divine timing of doing this in a week that's leading up to a holiday that I know a lot of people are probably celebrating or traveling for. The Christmas holiday, to go visit your families. Being around our families can be tough for some of us. I could certainly relate to that. And so having embodiment tools and practices as you go potentially to be in a hectic or an overwhelming or stressful experience, whether that has to do with the people or the travel or, whatever it is. The holidays bring up a lot of things for people. Being able to be in your body and not get all caught up in your head, judging, having expectations, making assumptions, attaching to how things should or shouldn't be, which is easy to do around this time of year, could really help you have a much more enjoyable end to 2018. So head on over, check that out if you want to. And now for today's episode, we're getting into the second half of what I call the arc of power. We covered the first half last week, and the arc of power is made up of 4 topics that essentially combine to create a healing, growth, and transformational journey and experiences as you move through them. I'm breaking the exploration of the arc into 2 episodes so that I can cover 2 topics in each and not overwhelm you. So last week we looked at surrender and release and trust and receptivity. This week we're looking at wild dreaming and desire and love and truth. The reason for an arc is if you visualize an arc, it starts low, goes high, and then grounds back down. The topics in the arc go in order: surrender and release, trust and receptivity, wild dreaming and desire, and love and truth. And we begin on the ground level with surrender and release. It's the starting point. We raise awareness and consciousness and elevate our practices, mindset, and habits, and then ground it back down into love and truth. The point is never to bypass or skip over the real deep stuff in life, but always to ground back down into love and truth, what is the realist, even as things change over time. So this arc can be repeated over and over throughout life, like a rose with a never-ending stream of petals. And I love that imagery. I also have 2 clips from interviews with alumni of the original Wild Soul Movement virtual program later on. The first one, you get to meet Simone Turner, sharing how her relationship to wild dreaming and desire and being able to own those and communicate them to loved ones really shifted. The second is Ren Fallow, who shares specifically how using mantras helped her bring some of her wildest dreams and desires to life, as well as some of the current big goals she's working towards with confidence and gratitude. So having worked with both of these women for a few years, I'm super proud of both of them and excited to share snippets of their stories with you. And if you want to hear their full interviews, you can go to wildsoulmovement.com/power2019. As well, there's 3 other interviews with our alumni on that page. And the purpose of sharing those, again, is for those of you who are feeling into, if you want to join me for a year-long women's circle, a year is a pretty solid commitment. And I really wanted to give you on that page all the details, all the information you could possibly need, but as well share some experiences. I'm obviously biased. This is my sacred work to do in the world. I love this. I firmly believe in this. All of this comes from my own lived experience, as well as experience working with thousands of women over the years in various contexts. But for you, it might be a significant decision. Maybe you've done this kind of work before, maybe you haven't. And so basically anything that you could possibly need to feel into and appropriately discern whether or not it would be an aligned choice for you in 2019 is over on that page, wildsoulmovement.com/power2019. So this is your invitation, and obviously the decision is entirely up to you. So I came to the arc of power in 2013 when I was originally creating Wild Soul Movement. Wild Soul Movement, for those of you who are unfamiliar, is the practice that anchors in all of my work. I created it by doing 2 things. Number 1, reverse engineering the processes and steps of my own healing, growth, and transformation through some of the most challenging things I'd experienced, as well as 2, studying, training, practicing, and being mentored by some incredible coaches, teachers, and healers. So like everything I create, there's a good dose of innate wisdom, life experience, practical application of proven methods and tools, and a major focus on implementation, practice, and integration. And those things are so important, those 3 things, implementation, practice, and integration, because we live in such a consumer culture, right? I mean, if you're listening to this podcast, the likelihood is that you've listened to more podcasts, whether they're mine, whether they're other people's, and that you consume a lot of content and information. You probably also listen to audiobooks or read blogs or follow people on social media. So we consume a lot of content, but it's kind of meaningless if you're not implementing what you learn, practicing, and integrating so that you can change your habits, your behaviors, how you show up in your life and in your relationships, how you treat yourself, how you treat other people, how you go about doing things. So this is, again, a big invitation as we wrap up 2018 to look at how you have been doing things in your life, how that's been impacting the experiences you're having, and if you want to have different experiences, what are the things that you need to tweak and adjust? So this is the nature in which I offer you these 2 topics today. Take them, be with them, feel into them, look at your life and see where you're doing well with them if you are, where you could stand to practice or apply them some more, perhaps where they're completely non-existent in your life or very challenging. And I'll give you some specific questions at the end to reflect on to help you get even more clear. So let's get into wild dreaming and desire. These are so expansive, these 2 topics. I find for women, there's usually 2 reasons why a woman or woman-identifying person would not be connected to or in hot pursuit of their wild dreams and desires. 1 is they're stuck in cycles of self-sacrifice and obligation. So basically their life revolves around everyone else's dreams and desires and needs even. The second is they don't feel confident, worthy, or deserving. So this topic addresses all of that. This is about cultivating feelings of safety around wild dreaming and desire. So really looking at, do you feel safe? Do you feel secure in even having dreams or desires? Have you given up on dreams? And dreams could involve goals. Dreams could involve anything. If you're someone with a bucket list, those could be your dreams. But as well, when I talk about wild dreaming, what I'm also inviting you to do is activate your childlike wonder and awe, to really exercise the imagining faculty of your mind. Because as we get older and as we live in this world, especially that is just built upon systems of oppression, like all kinds of systems of oppression, we become limited in our thinking, in our dreaming, and in our imagination. We believe in the impossibility of things instead of having faith that everything is possible. And, in recent months, I've had some conversations with friends who are really into social justice or political activism about, things being possible or things not being possible. And for me personally, it's largely a spiritual and an energetic perspective that I'm not willing to let go. If we're going to believe that things are possible, we have to believe in something larger than ourselves because we are limited in our humanity. And if we're only looking at what's possible from a human perspective and human capabilities and capacities, there's a lot of things that are going to seem impossible. But, if you're someone who has access to technology, you're listening to this podcast, I know our listenership ranges from the ages of 19 to 72, which that's obviously not including all the kids that might be listening with you along in your car. I know I have a lot of moms who share that. Their kids listen right alongside with them sometimes. But I believe if we're going to survive, and not just survive, but thrive in this world, in this climate, in this culture, we have got to allow ourselves to dream and believe that more is possible than seems possible. Because this is how we expand. This is how we become available for ideas, solutions, and resolutions to things that seem like they'll never go away. And so if you're listening to this, you have probably at least once in your life experienced some kind of synchronicity or even a miracle that made you go, maybe there is some divine or energetic force out there supporting us. Maybe it's not just us. Maybe there's more going on here. And I'm always going to invite you to that. I'm never going to force my beliefs on you. I'm not here with doctrine trying to get you to take on my spiritual beliefs. But there's really not much harm potentially in inviting you to just dream, to use your imagination, to expand your mental capacity to see more than is immediately available. And there's a book, I never even read the whole thing. I probably only got halfway through it, called E Squared by a woman named Pam Grout. And it's many years old now. But one of the experiments in her book, she has all these energy experiments. In one of the experiments, she's talking about how we really can only see what we can conceive of. So for example, if you didn't know that a white minivan was a thing, there could be one parked right out in front of your house and you wouldn't see it. And there are stories about how the original, back in the day, indigenous people here, the Native Americans in the United States of America, did not see Christopher Columbus's ships coming because They didn't know what ships were. So using those couple of things as an example, this is how I'm really inviting you to open yourself up to dream. Consider that more is possible than you've previously thought. Only so, when things are showing up that are outside of what was previously in your personal realm of imagining a possibility, that you're available to see it, that you're able to see it, and potentially work with it in some way in your life. Another thing under this topic is the difference between desires of the ego and desires of the soul, and how to align with your soul's desires. And I always say to people, spoiler, this makes it so much easier to manifest what you want, because what you want becomes aligned with literally what you are here to be, do, have, and create. And so desires of the ego tend to be the things that we have some kind of judgment around, some kind of expectations around, and a lot of shoulds, right? Attachment to how we think things should be or how things are supposed to be, or perhaps are in response to external expectations on us, whether that's by culture, society, communities, religion, family, relationships. Desires of the ego are usually in pursuit of external validation and significance that does not come from within. Desires of the soul really come from within. They are true. They are aligned. They're in integrity with your values and your priorities. And they're also just deeply, deeply nourishing. And I'll give you some examples of my own. So when I talk about being a force for expansion, for love, for good, and for healing, that comes from this prayer that I found many years ago. I literally think someone posted it on Facebook. I can never fully remember where I found that, but it just resonated for me so deeply. That's been my daily prayer for many, many years now. Use me, move me, make me a force for expansion, for love, for good, and for healing. And one of the big things in all of these topics under the arc of power is about really owning and knowing who you are, how you are built, and just fully accepting yourself exactly the way you are. Even if our culture might say it would be better to be this way, or you should be more of this, or blah, blah, blah. It's really going, this is me, this is who I am. And not from like that stubborn, like, take it or leave it, love it or leave it alone place, even though in a healthy way that is a thing, to have those boundaries. And to primarily surround yourself with people who are going to support and honor and accept you the way you are. It's not saying we can't be challenged and we can't grow, but, we all have core fundamental aspects of who we are, how we grow, how we operate, how we show up, our sensitivities, our preferences, and all those things are okay. So the soul's desires are aligned with all of that. They honor all of that. So in my life, I am built with an incredible amount of energy, will, and desire to create. I don't mind going first. I don't mind doing things that make other people really uncomfortable and taking the risks to go, hey, look, this is possible. I didn't die. And I'm not one to necessarily go, if I can do it, you could do it, because that's a little myopic sometimes. That does not factor in privilege and access. But it is just saying, hey, look, this might be possible for you. So if it resonates, maybe try it out, maybe check it out. And in doing that way, in doing things that way, I'm constantly inviting people to discover aspects of themselves that might have been long forgotten, abandoned, denied, stuffed down, put on a shelf because you didn't think you were worthy, or you didn't think you were capable, or maybe you didn't think that those things are possible for people like you for whatever reason. Maybe it's because of the culture you come from, or where you live, or your economic status, or any kind of limitation in your life, whether that's a physical, mental, emotional thing. There's a million reasons why we could point to why we can't do things. And so when we look at and we can tap into the desires of the soul, we have every reason to go, well, if this is coming from my soul, I at least owe it to myself and my creator to give it a shot. So it's a beautifully empowering invitation to be more of who you really are and to go on that self-discovery. And listen, it's a journey. This is why I have a year-long women's circle to take people through an experience of that exploration and discovery, because not everyone is in a place where they could just like sit down on a meditation cushion, chant some ohms and go, oh yes, I know who I am now. I'm connected. I see the desires of my soul. Everything is clear. You know, it takes a lot of freaking practice. It takes practice, takes support. And in a lot of cases, what amplifies the ability to align with what's true for you is being in an environment, being in an energetic container with other people on the same path. And we talked about that in the second episode where we talked about deep committed practice of this Journey into the Wild Soul series. So there's learning to discern between desires of the ego and desires of the soul. And then under wild dreaming and desire is also just worthiness, period. And worthiness is really an extension of receptivity, which we talked about last week. And it's interesting because I have been teaching this arc of power and practicing and using this really as my own path to growth, healing, transformation, self-discovery for about 5 years now, a little over 5 years now. And it really wasn't until recently that it ever dawned on me how receptivity and worthiness are deeply and intricately connected. Because when we are open and receptive, we, of course, are going to bump into where we feel worthy and where we don't. And there are so many factors in worthiness, why we do or do not feel like we deserve a thing, guilt and shame, especially for those of you that are justice-oriented or just really care about people, even people you don't know, not even just in your immediate families and communities and environments, to feel like that who am I question, right? Who am I to do this? Who am I to have this? Who am I to experience this when so many other people are suffering or struggling? And one of the ways that I've really come into a greater capacity for worthiness and receptivity is integrity and faith in myself. Like, I know, for example, things like money is good in my hands. I am going to do a lot of good with money. So it really benefits me to be able to have my own financial needs met and to be earning above and beyond what I could possibly need, not because I'm greedy, not because I'm going to go buy and spoil myself with all these things, but because generosity is one of my highest values. It's one of the reasons why I will always have scholarships available for my programs, because I want people to be able to access things. And it's not like I don't need the excessive amount of income, but I know that the more I earn and the more I have, the more I can share. So that's a big piece of worthiness. Trusting yourself, knowing that you're an integrous person and that you will be generous. Even if you are a privileged person, great. I'm going to use my privilege. I'm going to use my access to be able to help share and provide and create and connect experiences for people who might not have the privilege and the access that I do. It's one of the ways I use my platform here. And that is aligned. That is a desire of my soul. A desire of my soul is to use everything I have, use everything I've been given. Some of you, if you've been listening to the podcast for a while, you've probably heard me share one of my favorite quotes ever. I mean, I discovered this. I feel like I was a personal trainer when I discovered this, so it was at least 10 years ago, and it just hit me right in the guts. It's a quote by a woman named Irma Bombach that says, "When I stand before God at the end of my life, I would hope I'll be able to say, I used everything you gave me." Honestly, every time I say it, I get a little choked up. I get a little teary because to me, that's why we come here. That's why we live, so we can use everything we've been given. Some people will call it, die empty, leave it all on the field, however it is you want to think about that. And so if we're going to live that way, we need to know that we're worthy. So you all know I share a lot from my own experiences, but I know also it's extremely valuable to hear other people's experiences and perspectives that are also relatable and different. So I want to take a moment here to share for the next few minutes excerpts from, as I mentioned earlier, the alumni interviews with Simone Turner and with Ren Fallow. So here is Simone first.
You just never prepare for these things when they come up. I embrace it.
I get it. The wave, it just comes.
It just comes over like a wave. The scarcity mindset of believing that I am enough.
Yeah.
And that I do have everything that I need to support me. And that was huge in your program for me. Yeah, that was huge.
And then, so I think you said there were two. So trust and receptivity. And what was the other one?
Trust and receptivity and the wild dreaming and desire. At that time, I was reading Women Who Run with the Wolves.
Mm-hmm.
And so that whole part kind of helped me integrate a lot of the things that I was reading and understanding and being able to find my true self, not only in that book, but in that module of wild dreaming and desire. Being okay with the desires that I had in me that I really wasn't expressing, or I didn't feel safe to express with the people around me. And that included family. My mom has always been supportive in things that I've done. She just hasn't always been understanding of how I do them.
I can really relate to that.
Yeah. And so, even with her at times, I didn't always feel safe to communicate a lot of my desires. And your program actually taught me to bring a voice to that and be able to talk to her in a way that wasn't going to be combative or me walking away feeling frustrated.
Yeah. I love to hear that. We get a lot of stories about this, how people's relationships improve. And so that was Simone sharing a little bit about her experience. And now we have Ren, who has a lot of things in her life now grounding, coming into place. And she has really worked towards creating and manifesting some of her wildest dreams and desires. So here's Ren.
I apply your mantras to as you can tell, everything. I mean,
I love it.
But I mean, in my day to day, it's a lot of your work helps me reframe when I'm not feeling grounded, or if I'm, a big thing for me is okay, when I was working the office job I was at in 2015, you were the one that helped me reframe that whole thing. I hated that job. It was horrible. It was soul sucking. And you were like, you have to find the joy in things. You have to find a purpose in things. And I was opening envelopes, processing payments. And I was like, where's the fucking joy? Sorry, where's the joy in this? And I found it. I was like, I'm opening these checks, and the people who sent this money in made the money, they were able to pay this bill and they sent it in, and here I am to, put it through for them. And that was monumental for me. So that kind of thing is how I apply your work in my daily. That's just a good example. It's not current, but that was a really big deal for me because it changed everything for me. That job, it made it bearable. So.
And then you left. We were there when you left. I think for people listening or watching to this segment of this interview, my women make me cry all the time. And I don't know that anyone has made me cry as hard as you have, though.
Oh,
Because there were just some big moments that you would come in and you'd be like, I never would be able to do this without this space. And they were big friggin' deals. So you left your job, you started a business, you're friggin' buying a house now.
I am. Yep. Yep.
All right. I want to say one last thing about Wild Dreaming and Desire, which was not planned, but of course, when you live in the wild soul way, you're open to possibilities and synchronicities and experiences like this all the freaking time. On a technical side of things, when I was recording this, I recorded that first segment and then popped in those little interview clips. And while I was waiting for that first segment to export, which only took a couple of minutes, I popped over to Instagram. And literally the thing that came up was from Ursa Daly Ward, who's an amazing, incredible poet. And here's exactly what it said, y'all. This is what I call hashtag you can't make this shit up. Here's what it said. But what is real? I feel reality is overrated. Who did anything brilliant or unbelievable, firmly rooted in the smallness of all they could see in front of them? Dream large, dream huge, dream ridiculous. This is how we manifest, how we ask for the incredible. I love that so much. So let's get into love and truth. And there's a cool thing about love and truth here. This final topic of the arc of power, I have been refining since I first created it in 2013. At first, it was called Power and Creation. And then I switched it to be called Love and Creation because I was really exploring how the most powerful force there is love. But then as I was tweaking and recreating everything that is now known as Power 2019, which used to be known as the Wild Soul Movement Virtual Program, I realized that the whole thing brings us back to power. That's why it's called the Arc of Power, because power is the overarching theme. It all of this culminates with owning and embodying our power more and more in different, deeper, more meaningful and significant ways every time we move through and work through these topics, because life is always shifting and changing and evolving, and so are we. So we always need to be phasing through these things like guideposts, checkpoints, and that helps us stay in alignment and integrity to work our values, to continue unfolding and developing in true ways that honor and respect who we are. That is power, and power requires love because it's not genuine, authentic, healthy, useful, helpful power if there's not love and truth built into there. And so this year, as I switched the name of the podcast to be Truth Telling with Elizabeth D'Alto and have seen the impact of committing to truth, and as I say in the introduction of the show, the truth that's always evolving within us and around us, it's just landed for me. Oh, the whole thing is about power. And this last topic is love and truth. And that's it. So especially as Wild Soul women, we're not here to comply. We're not here to be cogs in the outdated systems that don't honor all of humanity. We're here to dissent. And we're here to become the living, breathing models for what's possible and more beautiful, loving, caring, compassionate, courageous, kind, inclusive, creative, healthy, and even fun. Fun, enjoyable, joyful. So it might sound like a lot or a tall order, but this isn't a race. These aren't levels to complete. It's a path to follow, a path of self-discovery. And as we discover ourselves and we become more available to be in relationships, community, and connection with others in these healthier, more meaningful, more powerful ways, again, like that creates a ripple effect. That creates a massive ripple effect. So when it comes to love and truth, this is the culmination of all the work that happens in surrender and release, trust and receptivity, wild dreaming and desire. This real, deep, unwavering connection and commitment to your truth and the courage to live in and from it which then leads to self-love that runs deeper, love for life that runs deeper than any external force or influence could ever destroy or compromise again, because what is a big part of that is acceptance, deep acceptance for who you are and how you are and for the way things are. It doesn't mean we have to be satisfied with them, but rather than like railing against and raging against and continuing to just put out more combative energy in the world, we're able to go, okay, this is how it is, but this is what I would like to see. Again, this is why we need that wild dreaming and desire to show us what would be more aligned and inspire our actions and how we operate. So we cultivate feelings of safety around accessing, speaking, and living in and from our truths. And again, that truth is not a static thing. Some things are. Some things will always be true for us, and some things are going to evolve over time. So part of this as well is the flexibility and agility to continue to evolve right along with our truths. We talk about here embodying self-love, courage, inner wisdom, and compassion. And compassion is such a huge piece, because inherent in compassion is that acceptance, the self-acceptance and respect that I was just talking about, self-honoring. And instead of trying to pretzel and twist ourselves into being what we're not, we firmly root and ground into what we are. If you're a woman or a woman-identifying person in this culture at this time in history, you've probably spent a good chunk of your life trying to be something you're not in order to please others or even to be safe. Maybe you had to do that in the environment where you grew up. Maybe you've had to do that in a marriage or at a job. Literally pretend to be something you're not. Make yourself be okay with things that you're really not. So this is about unpacking those things. And again, we still have to operate and function within this culture. But how do we do that in integrity? How do we do that in a way that does not deny who we are, that is not self-violent, but self-loving? And then the root of your power and becoming a force for expansion, for love, for good. And if you're someone who's here to serve in the world as well and facilitate healing, for healing, this brings us into this question. I love this question. What would love do? So a couple weeks ago, I was driving behind a car that had a not a license plate, a bumper sticker that read, "If not for love, then why?" And I was like, oh man, God is tugging at my heartstrings through this freaking bumper sticker on this like Toyota Land Cruiser or something, whatever it was. Highlander? I don't know. And I've been asking myself lately, whenever I feel challenged or hurt or upset or stressed or anxious, or like there's a sticky interpersonal situation. Some of you know I've been doing a lot of dating, and I've been meeting some amazing men, and I've had some experiences where I'm still like working out my habits and patterns of, overgiving or misreading a situation. And, it's just a constant evolution, a constant practice. And so one man in particular who I have been seeing on and off this whole year, I consider him a lover. We really have some challenges. Our personalities are very different in a lot of ways. And I was feeling super challenged around him at the time of this recording earlier this week. And just asking myself that question, what would love do? Oh my goodness, it just opens up so much. And even throughout the course of this enrollment period for Power 2019, as I mentioned earlier, having the different bonuses and having the different experiences and all these things and allowing myself to like go with my impromptu ideas, like doing this 5-day embodiment challenge this week that, wasn't previously planned. Those things occur by asking myself the question, what would love do? So I offer that to you as well. That'll be one of our reflection questions for this week. What does love mean to you? What makes up love? And what would love do in our toughest, most challenging, most painful, stressful moments, right? This is one of the ways when we talk about love and truth. Back in the Deep Committed Practice episode, which I think was episode 2 of the series, we talked about alchemy. We talked about containers. We talked about how the light and the dark, the shadow and the light, they birth each other. They're intricate. They're intricately intertwined. They are not separate. So that's why on this show, in all of my work, we don't light wash things. We don't spiritually bypass. We don't do love and light only or good vibes only. We're not afraid of negativity because it's friggin' part of life. We're willing to be with the deep, uncomfortable things. And when we have to be in those things, we just bring the love. We bring the love. We're able to acknowledge the truth. And we're still able to have valuable, meaningful experiences. We're able to love ourselves and other people even when things are tough. We're not out here just kicking things to the curb or pretending they're not happening or bypassing or jumping to the next thing that feels good. We have to be with the things that don't feel good. And that's also a really big, important muscle to build that we build when we talk about love and truth. How do we be with life exactly the way it is, but still have these beautiful experiences, still experience love, still experience truth, and still show up in a way that is honest to who we are and aligned with what we want to do in the world, what we believe in, what we believe to be possible, while again, always expanding into those possibilities. So I'm going to wrap up the episode here. There's a lot of nuance and complexity to all this stuff, but it's also very simple. And next week, we'll finish up this Journey into the Wild Soul series. And I have a few reminders for you before I let you go here. Again, if you're thinking about or if you're feeling into joining Power 2019, 2 things that are going on this week that may help you decide. The first is the Embodiment Challenge. So if you really dug that episode number 283 about embodiment, the idea I had last week was for an experience that allows us to practice embodiment together so you can see very simply in just 8 to 10 minutes a day how integrating embodiment practices in your life has an impact on your day-to-day, a greatly positive impact. So you can get the details by going to wildsoulmovement.com/embody2018. That's wildsoulmovement.com/embody2018. Excuse me. And if you're listening in real time, that starts today on Monday, December 17th. And we'll run through this Friday, December 21st. So I'll send you an embodiment practice video. It's just a few minutes long. Then I'll give you a daily assignment where we'll explore some different energies, and you can really begin to learn to speak your body's unique language of the senses, as well as to practice getting out of your head and being in your body, inhabiting your body, and discovering what an amazing gift that is, no matter what your body is like. This works for all bodies. Might be more challenging if you have, physical limitations or things, or if you have trauma, or if you've had, issues with your body. But this is firmly rooted in body love, in self-acceptance, and in healthy trauma-informed practices. So even if you have some stuff come up, you'll be safe. I'll be posting on Instagram daily all week. You'll be able to follow there. I'm at Elizabeth D'Alto on Instagram. You can follow along and participate inside the Journey into the Wild Soul pop-up Facebook group as well, if that feels better to you. And by the way, if you want to be sharing, that's what I recommend. So you could be witnessed, so you can see what other women are experiencing and sharing, because there's always so much value in that as well. Often someone else's reflection is really relevant for you. So the pop-up Facebook group, if you're not already in there, is at wildsoulmovement.com/popupfb. There will be also, again, to make it fun, some ways throughout the week to earn some bonuses towards your Power 2019 membership if you haven't joined yet. Because this coming Saturday, as I mentioned earlier, Saturday, December 22nd, that bonus of the guest mentor interviews, that goes away. So if you're wanting access to those interviews, I definitely recommend that you join Power 2019 either on or before this Saturday. December 22nd. And again, all the details for Power 2019 can be found at wildsoulmovement.com/Power 2019. There's a super in-depth FAQ page if there's anything not covered on that page that you are wondering or needing to know. And as well, if the tuition is a little out of your range, please apply for a scholarship. It's on the FAQ page, and it's right there on the page underneath the buy buttons. It says partial scholarships available, apply here. Please apply. Please, please, please apply. And if you apply this week, I will take a look at your applications early so that you could get in before that 12 guest mentor interview series bonus expires as well. So that's all the things, y'all. I cannot wait to hear from you. I've been getting so many amazing messages inside the Facebook group, in my Instagram DMs, especially last week's. This Arc of Power was really resonating. So many people were sharing it. I was trying to share all the posts that people were sharing in my stories from their own stories while they were listening to that. People were writing Instagram posts about these topics. So I know this stuff goes deep. I know it hits you in the feels for you sensitive folks. And I definitely want to hear from you, and I definitely want to know what's coming up. And so for reflection questions this week, we're looking at that question, just exploring where in your life could you apply that question? What would love do? And, what is your current relationship to these topics? What is your current relationship to wild dreaming, to desire? What is your current relationship to love and to truth? And what are your own personal definitions of all of those things? Because they will be nuanced for everyone, depending on who you are, how you're built, and what's going on in your life and in your world. So as always, thank you so much for listening. This was episode number 285. So the show notes will be at untameyourself.com/285. You were saying something about that tall poppy syndrome. What is that, if anyone listening doesn't know?
So it's really, it's part of the vernacular in Australian society, and I think the United Kingdom. It's really that experience of being too tall, too much, too beautiful, too brilliant, too. And you need to get cut down to size, sugar. You need to get cut down to size. And it's very visceral, and it's, and I have days of things that I want to say about that because it is so extremely painful to experience it. And I think even more painful is that unconsciously we've contributed to it. So I think about this in the context of, I talk about we canonize people and then we dehumanize people, right? Ooh. So we do this kind of bell curve of, putting people up on a pedestal. And then when they start to zig when we want them to zag, we cut them down, we demonize them. And again, it's pretty unconscious. And I think it's I can feel it in my chest, as I say. I think this is one of the biggest reasons people are afraid of success, because they have, ancient recollections of having this happen to them, and they've seen where they've participated in it too.